Good morning. You're probably wondering why we have these donuts right here. Whew. A lot to celebrate. A lot to celebrate today. Today's going to be so much fun. I wonder who that is. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Who's the he? I'm like, who's...
Hello.
Hello.
I heard there was a coffee chat
There
this
is a
morning.
coffee chat. Do you want to like sit with us and
Oh
chat?
my god, that would be so fun.
Hello. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cafecito.
You know me, I'm gonna get crunk, girl. I operate
Yeah,
at
does
a
this...
highly caffeinated level all the time.
Well, that's really why with coffee chats you need to have coffee because you need a little bit of a caffeine.
Careful what you wish for, girl.
Yeah.
Careful what you wish for, because it can get pretty crunk sometimes, girl.
Okay, so for you all who do not know who this is Luis Gomez. We worked together in the past. That's how we met. And since then, we've been able to continue our, I like to say, amistad, the friendship here. You helped me through some really hard moments. And now it's so great to have someone like you who you just rally against people and you just have a way with just making people feel welcomed always. And so I want that for everyone who's watching to keep tabs on Luis Gomez here. We're so excited to have him here today because today we're going to talk about something really, I guess, like very simple. People would think it's very simple, but it's super fundamental. So do you want to share what we're going to be talking about today? Please?
Yes, of course. And but before we get started, hey fans, hello. I think before we get started, I just wanted to say, fans, I am a Yaki fan. So I had the honor and pleasure of working with Yaki, and I was just like, you know what? I have to keep this girl in my surroundings because she is just... I admire her. I admire her drive, her ambition, her go-getter attitude, her can-do attitude. And so please, like, do keep her in mind. Like, she is just such an amazing co-worker, colleague, person. Like, hire ella.
Oh!
See what I did there? So, I'm a fan.
Oh,
okay? I'm a fan.
Oh my God,
I'm
Luis.
a fan. So, yes. So.
Wow, that means a lot to me. Wow, thank you.
It has a Luis stamp of approval. And you know me, I'm good at these things, okay?
He's very good at
I'm
this.
good at these things,
and let me tell you, by the end of this coffee chat, this guy's gonna teach you so much. I really am so genuinely excited to talk to you about this because your experience too lends itself to like all the nuggets that you've been able to teach me, and now you're gonna teach some other people about this stuff.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited about this conversation as well, about this journey, because it's gonna be a journey. It's
gonna be a journey. Yeah.
Let's get started.
Okay.
I think we just reconnected after a minute, right? And we had a conversation that was very deep for me. It was very important for me. I had been challenged with thinking about the concept of happiness, right? And so when we reconnected, we just had this conversation just about that. And I felt like it was so pleasant and it was joyful because how often do we get to just sit down and just think about happiness and what that is and as you mentioned, right? It's something that may seem so simple and it's something that we all may think we know what it is. But then, at least from my experience, I was in a situation where I was asked, well, what is happiness? As I was in a group, I was in a class, and our professor asked us, what is happiness? And I was like, yay! Like, yay!
Yeah, like,
I got
this,
this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got this, right? Well, this is... right? And so I was confronted with the fact that I didn't really have a good grasp on it. And so we are taught, to chase happiness, but how can we chase something that we don't really have a good concept of? And so I was very impressed and I was really intrigued with what my other classmates were writing down for their answers.
They're all writing down. You're like,
yeah.
What?
Yes, no, because, so the professor asked us to write down what happiness was for us, and I was, so intrigued by the
Wait, 1 second. I just realized you're very leaning towards that way. Sorry. I don't mean to.
Okay.
Here, let me back up. This is what
Cut.
I know, cut, right? Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay, oh
Sorry,
my god, where
that
do
was
I begin?
important. Oh, just say, you were intrigued by what your
Yes.
classmates were saying.
Okay. And so I was intrigued by what my classmates were writing down, what their meaning of happiness was. And I realized that obviously happiness for everybody is something different. And so it was just really nice to have a space and time to think about what happiness is for me. Because when do we ever do that?
It's that reflecting, it's that pause. And, we're kind of around the same age, not entirely. I'm older, so I'll gladly own up to that. But I'm telling you, like, we are running, we're doing things, we're trying to make something of ourselves. And we should allow ourselves that moment to reflect, that pause. I mean, I'm glad that happened in this classroom for you, but it's like to be like, wait, hold on. And the fact that you didn't even know, right?
Right.
It's this simple thing. It's like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
so then what happened?
So then I realized that, for some people, their happiness comes from the happiness of other people, making other people happy, right? For me, and I think for everybody, actually, our happiness is very multidimensional. It can come from many different places. And I'm sure the fans know that my happiness comes from being, surrounded by a lot of people. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes from just being present and being in nature and being still. And so I learned a lot about that. And one reason that I love you, Jackie, and that I need you in my life is because you really operate at this fast pace a lot of the time, right? And it's something that I admire. And
Well, that's how you met me. I'm like, oh my god.
But you know what? I feel like I kind of do that. I'm highly caffeinated all the time. I'm secretly shaking inside, and I just really admire that. And so, But in that, right, in that hamster wheel that we're on, at what time do we just stop?
Girl.
What time?
Okay, so listen, you met me at a time where I had been on that wheel for so long, but I was finally in a setting where it mattered to me, on a personal level. And so I went into hyper mode, right? And I do remember going to you one day and just being like, and I remember you told me it's really important to make your world big. I would have really benefited from this question that you just posed because I was so blinded by even wanting to look inward. I didn't want to. I wanted to just, I think I kept myself busy because I didn't want to deal with the inward. Because I don't know if I was really happy, I don't know. So you sort of, in your 20s, you sort of start, moving forward. This is definitely specifically with career stuff I'm talking about. That you're just okay, well, I'm moving forward, I'm progressing, I'm getting promoted, I'm, sort of just moving forward, but it never occurred to me, well what is the cost? How is it taxing to me from a health, a well-being
and
perspective?
is that happiness?
Oh shoot, okay.
And was that happiness? Were you getting happiness or just validation, right?
Well, that's the thing is I think I never thought about it. First of all, never thought about it. I was just well, this is what I need to do, or this is what's expected of me. I had that ingrained in my head that happiness came in small, what I knew, small things, obviously preserving my relationship with Anna. That was a very a space that I needed to protect, but I didn't think about all the other parts of my life, my health, my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health. I just didn't, it was an untapped thing that I just didn't even consider because I was so blinded. So I really don't think that I would have, I had to unfortunately hit kind of a rock bottom.
Right.
To be whoa, why am I not happy? It took
my
that.
God, I
don't
know. So when you were telling me that stuff, I remember, I had already been through my own kind of rock bottom. And I just remember there was one time that I was just driving and I just kept telling myself, I'm fine. But I was, the tears running down my face. And I'm but I'm fine.
But I'm fine.
I don't know why this is happening, but I'm fine.
But the fact that you didn't know why this was happening,
Right.
It's
And
a
why
disconnect.
why was I not willing to say, like, well, what if I'm not?
Ooh.
What if I'm not?
What if you're not?
What does not being fine look like? Because it kind of looks like this right now at the moment, right?
And why are we so afraid to not just say, like, you know what, we're not fine?
And you know what? I invite everybody just to ask more questions than whenever I leave a conversation with more questions than answers, I feel like I'm enlightened. Because yes, you know what did not being fine look like? It actually looked like that. But what does happiness look like? Actually, what does happiness look like for me today? Like in this moment, like right now, I'm pretty happy having a nice coffee chat and some donuts with my friends. So that is happiness for me today. So. When you were sharing that, I just remember that I had gone through that, the same thing, and I wanted you, when I said, like, the world is much bigger, is that the world is we are multidimensional, and so we should be able to get our happiness from different places, and the world is much bigger than what you were doing and what you could produce. The world can have many moments of peace, harmony, happiness, love, and I wanted you to absorb all of that while you were going through that. And so I'm very happy. I'm very happy that right now you are pursuing more of your creative side, because you have, when I met you, you had this spirit, this can-do attitude, this creativity that I was like, oh my God, that I feel like I didn't have, or I don't have, or maybe I do have, and I just don't explore that.
Exactly.
And so then I was and am very drawn towards you, because you are that creative person, right? And so in that context of happiness, I am happy that you are pursuing something that probably makes you happier than anything that you've ever done before. Like, donuts and tortas. Like, who doesn't love donuts and tortas? Like, oh, come on, yum. And you get to be creative as part of, like, your day-to-day, your job, your everything. And so what better legacy to leave to the world than your creativity, B, your happiness, and then, as you continue to grow your business, like, people should take into consideration that you are a happy person doing this job.
And you want to know why? You know why?
Why?
I really, as you're saying this, I'm like, why is it that that's the case? And it's so simple, actually. It's like, because I'm being so true to who I am, and being so true to what intrinsically moves me, lights me up, makes me want to, like, be in this freaking world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, seriously, like, 10-year-old Yaki, grab a camera, let's make some stuff. Like, it lit up my world in a way that I didn't think was possible. And as you grow, people start building obstacles,
chills, just
and they start covering you up and go, well, that's fine, but this is the real world. And so what I did is I freaking knocked through that wall, and I go like a Hulk, and I'm like, I don't care what sacrifices I have to make, but it has to matter to me on a fundamental level. So that's it. Like,
and that, fans, is happiness. Okay, I'm getting the chills.
Why?
Now.
Tell me why. What
because
is it?
you light up when you say that. There's this, like, joie de vivre that you have when you are talking like that. This enthusiasm, this drive that you have, it hits different when it comes from a really good place in your heart, and it makes you be happy to be alive. And so we all gonna die. We are.
That's no spoiler alert there.
So we all gonna die, but ask yourselves.
Yes. This is where you can do it here.
We all gonna die. But ask yourselves, what are we living for? What are you living for? I mean, everybody's gonna have a different answer, but what are you living for? Right now, it seems like you are actually living for something and being creative and leaving something that leaves a Yaki stamp in the world. And so I'm inspired by that. I'm in my own little journey.
Where are you at in this journey?
Highly caffeinated and tired. That's where I am in that journey.
But you even being here today, like you even like being open to exploring this side of you is like you're taking an active role.
Oh, for sure. So I am growing. I am a believer in like constant growth, right? So I am growing in different areas. So that's where the happiness conversation came about because of my growth investments. Mm-hmm. And but I am inspired by you that you have taken this leap of faith, so to speak, and that you're doing it, and that it's, you know, we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy. Mm-mm. It's not easy.
Yeah,
it takes
it's not
time.
glamorous.
It takes time.
It takes time.
But how? Tell us what because, you know, it can be scary. It can be daunting. What is it like when you actually do something that you love and you get up every day and you this is Jackie. This is authentic Jackie. What does that feel like?
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I don't even know how to answer that.
Because you haven't thought about it yet,
right?
And how does it compare to life before?
Okay. Wow. Well, it feels like I'm being honest with myself. Like I've let fear really dictate taking safe choices, and although they were great. They were great. We learned, trust me, I learned so much from taking the safe road. But there comes a time where, you know, we're all going to die, like you said. And I'm like, you know, I'm in my mid-30s and I realize, like, wait, like, if this is going to be the rest of my life, like, why don't I, this is how these choices have led me to this point. What if we change this around? Like, what if I start to actually, like, be honest with myself, take chances that are really me? What happens? You know, let's explore that path. Mm-hmm. Because I've already explored the other path and it's led me to this point where I wasn't happy. Mm-hmm. So what's wrong with like changing it up? And obviously, like, there are certain nuances and circumstances. You know, I had a partner who was supportive of that. Not everyone has that.
Right.
But I also challenge you, like, that it's like, what are you living for? Like, there's always a way. Like, I think that unrest inside will speak louder. Like, I think that's what happened. Like, according to my therapist, you know, my true self was like, hey, I'm still in here, mm-hmm. and I saw your role self, and you see you're not happy, so let's try it my way, mm-hmm. which is my way, right? And that's sort of the shift I made. And so by making that shift, I feel like every day I'm living life on my terms, and it just feels, it helps me be present. It helps me feel grateful for what I have. And it helps me, like, I get excited about even the hard parts, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's powerful.
That's powerful. And yeah, ultimately I just have more peace, and I'm not the hamster that you knew. Mm-hmm. I'm not.
But the interesting thing is that all the things that, you know, all of your goals, right, I think, or at least the ones that I know of, you've already done them, but for other people and for other jobs. So it's like, why can't you just do it for yourself, right? So that's why I'm telling you, I'm so excited for this new journey and this new path. Like, I trust, believe in you. Like, if, you know, I would hire you, hire AS. So, you know,
I'll hire you. I'll hire
you. So, I've already seen you do all of that. And so the fact that you are just doing it this time for just yourself, A, that's powerful. B, I know that can be daunting, right? And scary, but you've already done it. Now you just get to do it for yourself.
Oh, man. You're, like, so sweet.
So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for this journey, for your own happiness journey. And like I'm telling you, happiness is not a destination, right? Even if we know, you know, what our happiness looks like and what that is, it's not a destination, it's more of a journey. And sometimes it's a journey that you have to make decisions every day that move you towards your happiness. And sometimes that's going to bed early. Sometimes it's eating a really nice donut. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just being by yourself, and sometimes and then there's other times that it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna book that vacation, and oh yes, I'm gonna go to that concert, or yes, I'm gonna see that friend. But it's more of a journey that we all have to take, and we really all gonna die. So
that reminds me of what I had mentioned to you earlier. Because as I mentioned before, I'm very honest about therapy. But my therapist mentioned, whenever I'm self-sabotaging myself, this idea of, well, have you really ever allowed yourself to be happy? How does that? Tell me what's going on.
Oh my God,
there's
a lot to unpack there, because I just think of so many things. I think of how we, like us, because we're go-getters like that, we operate on this like hamster wheel, right? Mm-hmm. And in this hamster wheel, where's the space for happiness in that? In that journey of the hamster wheel, where is the space for allowing us, or why does it, I don't know. I mean, I go to therapy too. And I know that, maybe growing up and maybe socially, maybe our society doesn't really create a lot of space. Because imagine what would happen if they taught us to be happy at school. What would happen if they don't teach you, like, hey,
No, they don't teach you that.
No. Like, what would happen if they taught you, hey, let's talk about happiness today, like in third, fourth, and like actually each grade, weekly at least, what would this world look like if we all just kind of pursued our happiness?
Well, I have to say, I got to give kudos to the Gen Z community.
Yeah, for sure.
The Gen Z community has really opened up
a lot
space and conversations, because it does directly impact your mental health, and happiness is just, very connected. And so you mentioned that, because I don't know why I thought, for some reason, like, I love that you're talking about this on a grander scale, because I don't know, for me, I first thought it was like being queer. Mm-hmm. That's already like one shot down. Like, you're already like not allowed to be happy, because even your natural thoughts are not being supported.
Right.
But that's something I just like am starting to unpack, is like that when I first started to even have my own feelings and thoughts as an 8-9-year-old, I immediately had to shut those down and not validate them, right? And so that has now kind of, there's a thin thread, a red thread through my life. I don't know if there's been anything in your life. I'm sure there has been some things in your life that have not allowed you to be happy, and like, how do you navigate that?
Right.
I don't know.
No, like, and maybe this is the same for you and for the viewers, which is there's this thought that my happiness should come from my achievements.
But
which
I mean,
I'll share my resume with y'all if you want. Which I have a couple.
Very impressive, I have to say.
And so when I was building, the big chunk of my resume that looks pretty good, I don't know if I was necessarily like my happiest, but
let's take a moment there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, like, just a formula. You're achieving all these things, but were you actually really happy? You're questioning that, right?
They're good. So.
Right.
The world is more complicated than that. There was certain happiness that did come from that, but in my overall multidimensional happiness, maybe that's a thing that I have to dissect with my therapist next time. Was I really happy at that time? And where does my true self come in all of this and that? But I do want to second what you say, because I think we have an interesting positionality in this, right? As queer Latinx people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, our culture in the U.S., our culture from our families, our culture within the queer community, our culture as Orange County people, our culture as millennials. All of that positionality right there, right? Like, yes, maybe Gen Z is having a different type of wokeness, which it's great. Like, you don't know what it was like for us. But when we think about that, where was the space for happiness? Because I just mentioned a lot of struggle, girl.
A lot.
Queer, Latinx, in Orange County, which is a great place, don't get me wrong.
But
it was
being
just an interesting place to grow up in when you fall within this population, right?
Exactly.
And so, when we talk about that, do we hear happiness or do we hear struggle? And then sometimes, and then on top of that, and then we just had like this other conversation in class the other day where like, we were like, okay, well, what is identity? And, people.
Oh my goodness, that's a whole...
Yes. And so people gave their answers to identity, and then I just realized, do we identify more with our struggles than with our...
Dang.
Yeah. And some people identify more with like their successes, right? Which is great. But maybe, I don't know, a lot of people in my surroundings, we kind of identify more with our struggles. And why is that? Do we make more space for our struggle, for our obstacles?
I never think about it like that.
Like, maybe this is a call to action to make more space for our happiness. Happiness is a form of resistance, okay? Happiness is a form of resistance. My happiness is the way that I resist the world.
Wow.
This could be a wonderful time to be alive in a wonderful world. Let's just put it, do the work.
Oh my God, make more space for happiness. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because happiness is a form of resistance. And when we talk about, our identity as struggles, as Latinx people in Orange County, millennials, this and that, that can certainly be our happiness, but our struggles. But what if we resisted those struggles with just unapologetic happiness? And... Woo! Yes, and let me tell you something, y'all. Being queer is a beautiful thing.
Yes,
let me just tell you. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So speaking of that, there was a moment last summer where I went to a place that an island that is full of queer people. And all the disco dancing that occurred there, and just like the liberation, that freedom that like just even gay music brings, and people just being free, like that's something that I feel like us as queer people, like we at least get to say that we get to let go of a lot of expectations that were for us. So there's a beautiful part in that, and then there's happiness in that as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And it's nice to be reminded of that because, I still battle with internal homophobia. I still have some of that, and I think part of that is because it was just very, very ingrained into my everyday, pervasive. Right. That it's funny, but growing up, when I would see gay people in their joy, it fueled it because it was I'm not allowed that, I don't know if you've ever...
That's powerful.
Ever heard that. I mean,
That's powerful.
It's... So then now it's it's crazy, but it honestly took getting married and having my whole family there to support us to
that's your happiness and your way of resistance too.
I guess it is, yeah. But it took time, and it took a lot of inner fight, to
allow yourself.
There we go. So that's to go back to that. To allow myself, to give myself permission. Excuse me. To give myself permission to be who I am. And
to participate in the happiness as who you are.
Yes, fully, not just say it, but inwardly believe it. I remember my therapist even told me say it. She's like, say it. I'm a proud gay woman, and I was like. Because I never say, I don't say it very often, I'm gay, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm a gay woman. And it's to be just, and it goes back to what you were saying about, letting happiness in and embracing unapologetically who you are. And that's why a lot of people are like, oh, why are you so proud? It's you have to. You don't realize how many of us have been told forever that we can't even just feel the way we feel.
And who says that? You don't have to say specific name, but what is the context of just kind of don't rub it on my face kind of thing? I
mean, I think there's people who are maybe more conservative, right? That are just I
mean, there's also a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. But I think, but essentially, what I want to say is that it's so powerful to just, like you said, unapologetically celebrate who you are, whatever that identity is, whether it's queer or you love donuts, or whatever brings that happiness for you. Don't be afraid to celebrate how unique you are.
And let's take away if anyone is experiencing shame around happiness, let's try to change that conversation. Let's celebrate people's happiness.
I mean, I celebrate people who have boundaries now.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Tell me no. Fine. I told one of my good friends, I'm like, don't just ghost me. Say no.
Yeah,
no
like,
is a
yeah,
beautiful
totally.
thing.
Yes.
And here, as my therapist says, remember this, fans. It's much easier to go from a no to a yes than from a yes to a no.
Oh.
So that'll change your life. Trust
That'll
me.
change your life.
Yes. And it's beautiful. It's like, hey, no, you know what? Like, sorry, I cannot make it. Like, or you know what? I'm at capacity right now.
You don't have to apologize, right?
Right. But then it's like, you know what? Actually, I might be able to make it. Oh, you know what? I might be able to take this on.
Right.
It's just much easier.
Don't overextend yourself.
Yes. And because, as you make time for others and other things, where do you fall?
But that's why you come first. You should always come first.
Exactly. And
is that selfish? Because there's a stigma. It's like, oh, I don't want to feel selfish that it's just about me. But it's like, do you want to speak to that?
Oh my God. Because I don't know if it's going to sound nice. I don't give a flip if...
But why? What fuels that part of you?
Because who's going to take care of me?
But what fuels you? Not everyone feels that way. Right. So, like, what helps you get to where you are? What do you think it is?
I think it was... So I grew up as an only child, and I just kind of had to look out after my own self a lot.
Yeah.
Not to blame anybody or anything.
Yeah.
It was just kind of my experience. So,
okay.
I'm in that space where, like, if I don't look out for myself, who going? Who's gonna, like, look after me? Like, I have my own best interest. I am my own best friend. And I know me better than anybody can. So at least I should know my own needs. And I should respect my own needs. Because if I don't, then no. It starts here. Mm-hmm. It really starts here.
And how does happiness fit into that for you?
What do you mean?
Like, where does happiness fit into this idea of, like, I come first, but... what fuels your happiness? Because I think part of the hard part is putting people like first, putting themselves first. You're already doing that. So like, what contributes to your happiness?
Well, it's interesting because maybe I don't do that.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. Like,
maybe I don't do that like a lot, but I'm learning to do that a little bit more.
Okay.
And it's not so black and white. It's not like, it's only about me and it's gonna be just me. There's gonna be times that I'm just like, oh my God, what can I do for you? Like, of course. How can I show up for you during this time, right?
But you do a good job of protecting yourself. I feel like in a healthy way. I mean,
I learned.
No, you do.
I learned because I used to be a yes person, which is great. It's great to be a yes person, but then I just said yes like more than I could have. Yeah. Like there was a moment that there was no room for any more yeses. Yeah. So now I have to be mindful of that. Mm-hmm. And there is how do I say this? I try to, put my best interest in myself first, of course. And I think that in doing that, like I'm getting to know a little bit more of my happiness. And sometimes it's just being by myself. There is happiness in being alone sometimes. Like for example, I think that I'm going to spend the rest of the day alone today. But that's great. Like I get to be like go on an adventure by myself. Maybe go see the snow because it just snowed in Southern California. So. But
that means you have such self-trust and confidence. Like, and so many people struggle with that.
But it starts there, like keeping promises to yourself and like acknowledging that you are your own best self caretaker. Is that even a concept?
Yeah, it
makes sense. And actually following through on that, you learn to trust yourself a little bit more. I don't have the answers to everything, and I'm not going to say that because unlike you, I actually do play it safe. I'm more of like a safe player. I'm more of and I have my reasons and I have my own journey.
Of course.
But that's why I admire you so much because you just go. You just went and you have the drive and maybe you're like nervous sometimes, but You just go and do
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
I'm more of like, okay, let's plan a strategy. Let's have a plan, and maybe like a plan B and a
Yeah,
plan C.
yeah.
But sometimes it's best not to have a plan B or C.
Sometimes you just gotta go for it.
Yeah, and sometimes plan A should be the only one, so that there's no other option.
That's what they say about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about that too, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but yes, like I said, I don't really have all the answers, but in my day-to-day and putting one foot after the other, I try to make decisions that will bring me happiness, and it's important to also stop. You'll be surprised what you learn when you just stop. And yes, and sometimes you're so much in this hamster wheel that
so
silence
true.
like freaks you out. But, slow down until you can just stop, and then you'll learn so much if you just stop.
Okay, so to piggyback off of that, I think some of us, when we stop, I think part of the fear is like, because when you stop, then you do have time to like reflect, see how you're feeling. And some of us, right, may not like what we are how the way we're talking to ourselves or how we're really feeling, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to stop and you have to listen to yourself. Like, if you don't, like, I feel like that's what happens when people are like in their 50s and 60s and then they turn around and they go, wait, what just happened? And that's why it's like, I'm so much encouraging all my friends. Now we're like, mid-30s, we're like, hey, stop and like think about you just lived like a chunk of your life a certain way. Like, how's it going? How are you feeling about it? Like, you know what I mean? No, I think it's so important. It's like in anything, you have to check in. Like, how's it going? Relationships, how's it going? Like, everything, work, how's it going? Like, and you have to do that for yourself. Like, but I don't think that people teach you that. It's not like part of
I know, but that was really powerful. Fans, how's it going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pause this video.
Ask yourself, right?
And ask yourself. Look back at your life and look at your present. How's it
going? Yeah, you like where you're what direction you're going in?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Also, I think what I'm also learning, not that I'm doing it, but also what I'm learning is that, if I die tomorrow, would I have wanted to take that one risk?
Oh. Dude.
So, because
I'm so happy when you say that.
Yes.
When you say that, it's like my happiness radar is off because, last year when I quit my job, I'm like, it's going to be almost a year in April. And it's like, I just can't imagine my life the way it was. Because earlier when you were like, how is it different? I'm like, I just feel like I'm in a different, it's like, I feel like I'm on a different train, if you will. I literally feel like I jumped onto another train and it's like, that train's gone. And it's like, I took some snacks and,
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm looking forward. It's like, no, like, I don't, like, I'm in this is my life and this is, I don't know.
I love that. There's this sense of like fulfillment and maybe even completeness, if that's even a word, that is invaluable. And I mean, I'm not wishing this, but we all could die tomorrow. And then, and then if we really asked ourselves, like, how was our life? I'm very happy that I get to say that, I've done a couple things in my life as long as this body has been on this earth, right? And so I'm in this journey of like, right now, getting inspired by you and by other folks that I've met, and where I'm just like, oh, my ears are open, my eyes are open, I am thirsty, I want to learn, I am curious, I just want to grow. I am in that space because I've realized that there's so much more to this world. It's a big world full of everything. Like, if you're just willing to look and learn. And so I'm in that space, and so I'm inspired by you.
I'm excited for you. Are you kidding me? Yeah. You're like a force of nature. I'm just like,
I know. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna be calling you, dude. Are you kidding me? I'm like, you just open up a room, dude. You open it up.
Thank you. And
you open it up.
So
I'm excited for you. Like, I was gonna tell you something. You were saying it, and I got lost in your in your words here.
I'm like thirsty, like
That you're
I'm on a
thirsty.
journey.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm so. Take note of what he's doing. Like, I love that you are. You say you're open, but you're putting your, what is it? Your money where your mouth is. You're putting your time. Like, you actually are connecting with people. You're learning. You're taking this time with me today. Like, and you'd be so surprised. Like, people will. If you ask, if you are honest and you're like, hey, like, I want to learn more about this and that, people will be there for you. Like, I think people are so afraid, or, you know, like, oh, am I going to look like weird or this and that? It's like, no, just go for it. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, and there's people out there who will help you, who will teach you, who will connect with you. Like when you say the world's big, it's like, yeah, there's like, you would be surprised. You just ask.
Right,
Like, you just
right,
ask. Like,
right.
The power of that is, like, it's unbelievable.
And it goes back to, like, the whole, like, would you regret it more if you do it or if you don't do it?
Yes.
Because that actually does lead to happiness sometimes, man. So you're like, should I really buy this plane ticket?
Yeah, I guess it depends on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. And I think it's about, sometimes you just, you know, you can think about things, but ultimately you just gotta, like, I do encourage people to just, like, go for it when the time is right, when you've, like, the time is right.
Right. And I don't know if you can tell fans, but I'm an extrovert, so I enjoy
a little bit.
I enjoy meeting people, and I love that I'm in this new space where, like, I'm saying yes to things that I normally wouldn't say yes to. Just because you never know who you're going to meet, you never know what you're going to learn from those situations. Obviously not something, like, dangerous, right? Or, you know, have to be smart about it, but because I'm so thirsty for learning, I'm just saying yes to these things that I feel like are going to help me grow, even if it's just, like, in something, like, you just never know. So it's a beautiful world out there. Yes, it can be cruel, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but then there's a lot of positive things that are happening in the world as well.
Yeah.
And good people that are out there.
Yeah.
So
one thing I want to talk about is, because a lot of people, there's different variations of where people are at mentally. Mm-hmm. Some people might see you and be like, oh my God, I love what he's saying. Some people are like, dude, I want to be there, but there's, like, these mental blocks. Mm-hmm. You know, when you told me that day, when you're like, make your world big, I heard it. I heard it in a big picture capacity. I was like, okay, I need to hear this. But I still was like, I think it was still a long road for me to, like, truly live by that. And so my question to you is, like, do you have any advice for people who are still kind of, like, still have some work to do to get to that point? Because there's different places that people are mentally where they can maybe see the message, but they can't necessarily hear it. You know what I mean? Right.
And my initial thought is, do not get discouraged, because Rome wasn't built in a day. And it didn't take you a day to get to the place where you were at.
Nope.
So you couldn't just get it. And same with me. Like,
that's
it
true.
didn't. And sometimes there's times that I'm in my own holes and I'm in my own bad places, and I just kind of want to snap it. I'm like, well, what kind of happiness do I need right now to, like, fix it? And I think that's where it's, like, some problematic, some problems may arise with it. When you want, like, just, like, happy, like, instant happiness, you know, you make bad decisions sometimes. Okay. But
yes.
I have to recognize that, you know what, it didn't take me one day to get to that place. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take me more than one day to get out of that place. So it's part of making your world bigger, right? Mm-hmm. It's maybe sometimes it's not going to happen within one day. The world is bigger than that, and it might take people some time to get out of that place, and maybe many experiences and maybe many new thoughts to get out of that place, not just an instant switch. Mm-hmm. And when we did talk that one day, it did teach me to start. It gave me, like, something to point to, but it also, you know, it took me small things that we take for granted, that really, like, day-to-day things that help with moving you in that direction, right? Knowing that it's not going to happen in 3 days or whatever. And what I mean by that is that, like, as silly as it is, it's like going on a 15-minute walk. Mm-hmm. Journaling, which everyone might think is cheesy, but it's people underestimate the power of that. Really prioritizing the people who are already in your life. Like, I really made a point to, like,
make sure I was a good friend, you know, with my friends. Like, I was a really bad texter, and I'm like, I'm going to text back, you know? It can be small things like that, or I'm going to call someone. Like, it doesn't have to be this, like intense change. I think it's also about, like, just slowly reminding yourself of what's already in your life that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God, 100%. And as you were mentioning, those little things are also little bits of happiness.
Yes.
Like that 15-minute walk. I mean, I go on like 15-minute walks like almost every day, just because it's a reset. And then sometimes I do it in silence, sometimes with music, and I pretend I'm somewhere else. And I mean, you have a beautiful trail right here, so I'm sure that's gorgeous.
It is.
But and maybe just texting back, and then maybe they tell you a joke, and those are little bits of happiness. And so for me, when I was in my deepest, darkest moments, to get me out of that, I had to meet myself again. Like, I didn't even know who I was anymore. It got to the point where I was looking in the mirror and I'm like, who is that? And what happened to that other happy person? So I just posted this photo on Instagram, my latest one.
Okay.
Where I'm like, ah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's me. Like, if
How
one
important is that?
Yes. And I was like, what happened to that person? Where is that person? And I had to re-meet myself, essentially. Get to know myself again. I was like, okay.
Are you hearing this? Okay.
What do I like to do for fun? Like, what is important for me? Like, what is good? Like, what is that? And so slowly but surely, you know, you get to that place. I'm not gonna lie, it does take time.
Of course.
In many ways. It you know, it's not something that happens overnight, and it takes like little investments, right? And investments are time.
Yes.
So it may be reconnected with an old friend, and maybe spending time by yourself, in your own thoughts, and maybe that'll give you like the clarity that you need.
And don't be afraid of your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Because some people are like, you know what I'm saying?
That's where the healing happens. Okay.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? The
yes.
healing?
No, that's where
people.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm kind of like.
What?
I don't want to say a masochist, but I do like in therapy. I'm like, yes, go in deep.
Well, we all have our own way of approaching healing.
Yes.
How do you approach healing?
Well, I don't know. I feel like whenever I go deep into, well, thankfully, it's not that my wounds are. I think in some ways my wounds are healed, but it's like a when you injure yourself and you have a cut. You know, when it's open, it hurts and it bleeds, and that's when, and then you just kind of want to avoid it. But I'm in that space where, like, I feel like those cuts, they're scars, they're there, and they made me who I am. But I'm not afraid to go like down and deep and say like,
That feeling of the pain, What does it do for you then when you do that?
Oh my God, I was thinking about it. I'm like, why do I kind of like it? Well,
what is it?
It makes me feel alive. But you know what? But it's not that that's a bad thing. It's not like I'm a masochist.
It reminds
you are a being who's experiencing life. And sometimes pain and healing is part of life.
It's the most human thing.
Yes.
Seriously.
Because you can't, and when we're talking about happiness, y'all, we're not just saying like this constant state of euphoria and joy.
No. Say that again for the people in the back.
When we're talking about happiness, it's not talking about a constant state of euphoria and joy. It's about all of the elements, the components that make a human being. But at the end of the day, when you go to bed, even if you had a shitty day, you go to bed kind of like you in peace and saying, you know what, but I'm fine, you know, it's great. Like I have all of this. Despite that, I have all of this. And so it's what some scholars would call a rich conception of happiness. Knowing that it's not just all like, joy and euphoria and all those positive feelings, but rather than our experiences at the end of the day equal happiness.
And you just hit on something so interesting is you said about the positive feelings, that happiness, like you can have negative feelings, you can have positive feelings, but they don't define your happiness. Because the feelings don't cancel each other out. I've mentioned this before. Because you can feel, it's about like going at bed at night and being like, I'm on the path. I'm on my path. And sure, I can be anxious. I can be nervous. I could be hopeful. I could be motivated. I could feel loved.
Right. Right.
Because that's what being a human is.
And
like
going back to
that
that conversation of like making your world bigger, right? So when we're talking about happiness, let's not make our world let's not make our world small and say, happiness is just this one thing. No.
Yeah.
It's as we make our world bigger, like happiness is all of these things, including maybe like some learning lessons.
Yeah.
But yes, it's going to bed at the end of the day and saying, you know what, like I'm being authentic to myself. Like I have a loving partner. I have a roof over my head, a beautiful dog. And just going in peace and then going to do it, the next day. Like I said, this is not a conversation that's supposed to be like, oh my gosh, we have the key to everything.
Yes.
Or that,
no,
this is what y'all should do. Follow this
12-step
program, and then you'll find nirvana, and then
definitely not.
And then whatever else. It's not that. It's just understanding that a human experience can actually be positive.
Yeah.
A human experience in this world can actually just be positive with its pros and its cons. Yes. And I want to, at least for an extrovert like me, I want to underscore the importance of community. Like this is community right now.
This is community. Mm-hmm.
And just being able to share, and sometimes being able to share that you had a shitty day.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to ask for help. Because I don't know if it's like culturally, socially, like it's just hard.
It's so liberating though when you do it though.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Because every
time surprised of the help that you get.
Oh my god. Like on this journey the last 4 years, like what I've learned from other people, because I asked and they were, I'm telling you, people will help you, but you have to be vulnerable to do it and realize that you can't do it yourself, and you have to ask for help, and then you'll realize also how connected we all are, because we're all going through stuff.
Yes.
Like what is the thing that Anna always tells me?
Stuff.
Anna always tells me. I don't know if she's listening. What's the thing you say to me, baby? You're like your experience. What's the James Baldwin quote?
He says, you think your pain and heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. And basically it's like you think that you're alone in what you feel, but no, everybody else is going through this.
Everybody's going through
it.
But there was another exercise in one of my classes.
Thank you, babe.
We had to write on the boards like different answers to different questions. One was like the spaces we have access to. Other was like the kind of like financial, I don't know if it was like financial resources, just like resources that we have access to. The other one was, the people that we know or groups that we know. I don't know. The point of it was, once you see on a board all the resources that we collectively can bring to the table, the world is a less scary place. So you'd be surprised. So when you tell me like, oh, let's go to like a meetup group, I'm like, actually, you never know who you're gonna meet.
I met my wife. I was like, you have to open up your world. You have to be and realize that like we're all looking for the same thing, and it's.
And we live in an individualistic culture that maybe glorifies individualism, and only you can do it, and like that hustle culture of like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm gonna do that. There's a beauty in just being surrounded by like-minded people, and you'd be surprised the different resources that you all can bring to the table.
Uplift each other.
Yes, and to build something together, and to help somebody when they're in need.
Oh my goodness. Have you ever been in a position where you haven't allowed yourself to be happy?
Yeah. Well, when I went into like my depression, I feel like I went in there because of that, because there was no space for happiness for what made me. I was getting happiness in some ways, but then most of my day-to-day revolved around existing and producing
productivity.
Yes, existing and producing, and not a lot of time for just laughter, for just stillness, for silence, for nature, for connectedness, for aspirations, for looking forward to something, for creating. There was like hardly any space for creating.
I loved working with you, by the way, because everything you just described, like you did provide to me. Like I felt laughter with you. I felt connected, creativity. I felt
I love that.
you gave that to me in a place where I didn't feel like I could have that.
Thank you.
So
But this is
whatever
another lesson
you learned,
for the fans.
Well,
this
what?
is another
What's the
lesson for
lesson?
the fans because now I'm in this I'm in this journey of like being hungry and thirsty and with eyes wide open and ears wide open. It's good to ask your friends like, what do they think of you? Because I didn't know you thought that. I didn't know you saw me like that.
No.
Oh
my
like,
God.
I was just kind of like in my own world of like the same of like that hamster wheel of just like going and going and going and
Why do
going.
you think I pop into your office? I feel, hey.
I didn't know that. I was that person, even though I didn't necessarily feel like I was definitely not where I was before.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a better place, but I didn't know that I could provide something to that extent to someone. I need you in my group, friend. I'm telling you, like her drive, her commitments, her her can-do attitude, the way that you just dare to go and get, like that's why I need her in my circle. So she's a good person to have in your circle for sure.
Stop. Oh my goodness.
But it's interesting. I encourage people, like, ask your friends and family, what do they think about you? Because you would be surprised of the things that I didn't know that I was that person for you.
Really? I'm like in shock right now.
I didn't think that I was all that then.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe more that person right now because I have a bit more. I make more space for that now. Mm-hmm. But back in the day, I didn't feel like I could be someone like that.
But even in the times that we spent together, it was like you're always just so. Like, you took time to be with me and be welcoming to me, and both from a personal perspective and from a work perspective. Like, you were just like, so, yeah.
Well, I was always inspired by you and just how you went, vroom, like you just, vroom, vroom, vroom.
Well, I don't want to be vroom, vroom, vroom that much anymore, but I
think
put some guardrails on myself.
You might be doing that, but just in a different way. Because now the room feels different when it's just something so authentic.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just like a different room.
Yeah.
But like I said, always make space for the different dimensions of you, right?
Yeah.
There's times that you may not want to go room, and you just want to stop and be still.
I think the biggest learning that I've had so far is how important it is to, before anything, you wake up in the morning, like how, I don't do it every day, but I'm always reminded of it, is how important the you comes first. Mm-hmm. Like, because none of it matters, but you have a good strong hold of yourself and being like, how are you doing? You're okay. Like, that very mindfulness of who you are, like, it can just, because you're the one that's going to have to get yourself out of bad situations, good situations. Like, you have to have that, you have to be really connected with yourself. Mm-hmm. And I never freaking did that, dude. Like, I was so like just distracted for like doing things for other people, like, and now it's like, it's just really powerful. So that's why when you talk about how you were like, no, like, if I'm not gonna do it for me, it's like, so I think that's a great value that you have already built in. And I encourage you that whenever you see people that you feel like don't have that, like, do your Luis thing, okay? Yeah. Like, because you can really inspire a lot of people by being.
And it's not selfish. I think it's my way of protecting myself.
No, that's a great thing.
Because no romantic partner is gonna know me better than I can. I cannot expect other people to come and make me happy. Oh yeah, it really does come from within.
Can people follow you? Can we
yes.
I'll put this information in the description.
Yes.
So have people follow you, right?
Yes. So you can keep up with me on Instagram. My Instagram is at @omgluis. That's at @omgluis_. And then you'll get a better understanding of like how this all works. And the many dimensions of me, of my work, I'm going to school at this, currently, I'm getting my master's, and then, I don't really know necessarily what's ahead, but, which is why I have, like I said, all ears, all eyes, like, I'm just thirsty to learn, so why don't you be on this journey with me? Mm-hmm. The therapist says, as I'm in this journey, right, of like, I have my eyes open, my ears open. I'm just like, what do I have to give to the world? Like, why did you invite me to participate here, right? Like, and my therapist says, like, listen to what people say when they answer that. So what is the answer?
Okay, so I'm not going to answer it as eloquently as you speak, because you speak way more, you got some, like, good degrees and you're working on your master's, so he speaks very eloquently. But I will say this is, number one, you impacted my life for the better. You made me see things at a time in my life that I couldn't see a lot of things. So that, number one, that's huge. So that to me, and that to me is like a big chunk of it is like, if you can do that for me, I want you to be able to do that for more people. So that's number one. I'm gonna get emotional. I don't want to.
Oh my god! Is that a first?
Yeah.
I think being gay and Mexican is a challenging thing. And then I see you and I see myself and I'm like, I don't know, I just feel like I don't feel alone in this space. Like, you helped me through some hard conversations with my family. You remember that? So, yeah, you make people not feel alone. And I hate that you're making me cry. And of course you're just fabulous. Like, gosh.
Oh my god.
Like, I can hear you and see you all day long. Like, why not? You're so entertaining.
Thank you. I am so flattered.
Jeez, man.
See?
Wow.
Like, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, like I said, I admire you. So it's so great to have these conversations, because sometimes we don't know what we give to the world, how we're presenting ourselves to the world, and just how other people see us, like the good parts, right? But it's good to have like that mirror. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you so much. I'm a fan. I'm a Jackie fan.
Oh my god. You got all Barbara Walters on me right now. Oh my gosh. Híjole.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for coming here today. I had no idea I was going to cry, so thank you for that. Thanks for celebrating. We already started biting. Thanks for celebrating we just passed 1,000 followers on Instagram. Hey, every little bit counts.
Of course.
And thank you for being our very first guest here on Yaki Coffee Chats. I'm talking about such an important thing. And I already told him, but we're going to now move this, whenever I have a guest on here, we're going to move them onto a podcast so you can hear it while you're jogging or taking a walk, on those walks that we talked about. So thank you so much for kicking this off and actually nudging me to put this on a podcast platform.
Yes, friend.
So thank you, friend. And excited. Everyone follow him. I'll put his information down in the description. And cheers to happiness.
To happiness.
Hey!
To queer joy.
Yes!